Hi everyone. I'm happy to talk to you today about one of my favorite things to do in winter in Northern Ontario, getting dressed up really warm and going outside to look for birds. Now, Northern Ontario has so many great locations for winter birding. I live in the South Porcupine, so I'll be talking about the Timmins area here in northeastern Ontario. Just like all of Northern Ontario, it's a wonderful place for winter birding. We love winter birding in the Timmins area. It's a challenge, it's fun, and of course it's different. It's not about the number of birds we'll see, but it's about how beautiful it is, and it gives us an opportunity to see different birds. And sometimes you're standing out there and it's completely silent, and you know that in spring the loud chorus of songbirds is coming back, and the contrast is incredible. A good place to start is in your yard. If you install a feeder, you'll get a variety of great birds in the Timmins area. I'll just show you a few examples. You'll probably see red-breasted nuthatches at your feeder, common redpolls. All birds love sunflower seeds and peanuts. You'll also probably see some Canada jays and blue jays at your feeder. You might be lucky and see some wonderful evening grosbeaks at your feeder. Pine grosbeaks, they're all common in the Timmins area and all of Northern Ontario. And of course, all the birds that visit your feeder, they can find food naturally in the forest. Here's a pine grosbeak feeding on cones. You probably recognize the common black-capped chickadee, which visits feeders and are everywhere in Northern Ontario. We have another chickadee called the boreal chickadee. It looks different and has a different call. It doesn't visit feeders, so you might want to look for this one in thick coniferous habitat. It's a fun challenge to look for boreal chickadees in the winter. We have also wonderful pileated woodpecker. This is our largest woodpecker it's everywhere in Northern Ontario. He can also visit your feeder if you offer some suet. We have other types of woodpecker. The downy woodpecker is our smallest woodpecker, and the very similar hairy woodpecker is also common. We have two other types of woodpeckers that I'm going to talk about later. Now, these were just examples of birds you can get at your feeder. What if you want to explore more species? Because we have a lot of different birds in the Timmins area that doesn't visit the feeders, so I would suggest you go out and explore different habitats. Now, what does that mean? I'll give you an example. If you're around the Timmins area or anywhere in Northern Ontario, find some fields or somewhere where there's open areas and low trees and just different habitats, and if you scan those often with your binoculars, you might be lucky and see a northern hawk owl or a northern shrike. They like this type of habitat. Another type of habitat you can visit is agricultural fields. I put a photo here to show where I saw this beautiful snowy owl near Timmins. Now this of course is a private property, so when you drive around and look at agricultural fields, it's very important to stay on the road and not go on the property, not to trespass. And another reason for this photo is when you see a photo of owls, it often looks like the photographer was very close to the bird, but this is how far I was from this bird. It's very important to stay far. With cameras and scopes and binoculars today, you're able to stay far and still look at the bird. It's important to give them some space because they need to rest and feed, and you don't want to disturb these wonderful birds. Another thing to do in the winter is to keep an eye on trees that have a lot of natural food to offer. An example is fruit trees. So if you have a tree that still has lots of fruits, keep an eye on them. You might see some Bohemian waxwings or other birds going to feed on those fruit trees. We also have crossbills in the Timmins area. White-winged crossbill is a little more common than the red crossbill, but both are possible. And they feed in coniferous trees, so they feed on cones. And if you look closely, you'll see that their mandibles are crossed. And the reason for this is to help them reach inside the cone to extract the seeds. They're wonderful birds. This is a male white-winged crossbill feeding on a cone. And here's another male white-winged crossbill singing last January. Another thing we love to do in winter in the Timmins area is look for these two woodpeckers. Now the American three-toed woodpecker here on the left and the blackback woodpeckers. They are both in the Timmins area and all over northern Ontario, but they are a challenge to find. And it's a fun challenge, and we love to look for these. We are very fortunate in the Timmins area because we have great trail system, all maintained by the Matagami Region Conservation Authority. The three trails where you can find these woodpeckers and lots of other birds in winter is first the McLean Drive Trail here in red, also known as the Scout Rock Trail. It's a good one. The Hersey Lake Conservation Area here at the end of Boydchuk Drive is a great spot to look for these woodpeckers. And the Bart Thompson Trail right here. You can access the Bart Thompson Trail from the Ontario Government Complex in Porcupine or from Legion Drive. And all these three trails, I would say, are the most popular spot in Timmins to look for birds in winter. And all three are great spots to look for these woodpeckers. Hersey Lake Conservation Area is a very vast trail system, and every intersection has a map and shows you where you are so you can't get lost. And it looks like this. Wonderful habitat for blackback woodpeckers, lots of jack pines. How do you find these woodpeckers? First, you choose a day where it's not too windy because you're going to want to listen for them. You will often hear them before you see them. So listen for their faint tapping, and because of the way they feed, the tapping or scraping the bark, it's not very loud, so even your footstep can prevent you from hearing it. So it's a good idea to walk and stop often to listen. So walk a few meters, then stop and listen and continue. Another clue is to look on the fresh snow for bark, and that could be a clue that there could be some in the area. Because of the way they feed, they often leave clues like this. Here's a blackback woodpecker. You can see the back is completely black. And this one is a male, has some yellow on the forehead. Now you follow the clues like this, you listen for the tapping. We found this bark on the snow last winter in the Bart Thompson Trail, and not far from it was this woodpecker. And you can see some white on the back right here. This is an American three-toed woodpecker. They're a challenge to find, but once they find a good tree and they start working on it, sometimes you can watch them for a while, so it's fun. So that's it. Now I hope you'll try to go out this winter and discover some of our wonderful Northern Ontario birds, and I might see you out there.